Welcome back to Gold Derby. I'm Christopher Rosen. I'm joined by Joyce. Joyce, we're getting our LOLs back on today.
Remember when we graded the LOLs of shows like 27 years ago?
And I would say we could do it again, and not a thing has changed.
Not really, no.
We're just talking about this. The comedy race here at the Emmys, pretty static, I would say. I don't think you said you haven't updated it since we did this months ago.
Yeah, I mean, I've checked save, but I haven't made changes.
That's a great note. If you're making predictions on the Gold Derby, just hit save. You don't have to make any changes, and then you will look like you made changes. So it kicks you to the top.
Or, you could just like change the order of like two people, Yeah.
We're talking about comedy choices. So the big thing, we're recording this on Wednesday, another new episode of Ted Lasso that has been roundly...
A long one, 63 minutes.
A 63-minute episode that has been roundly, I feel like, by the criticarati, what would you call them? The elite critics, seemingly, still not down with the season.
I wouldn't even say elite. It's just critics. I think like I don't know why like anyone, or like, I don't know why, because a critic doesn't agree with your take on something, that you have to paint them as a snob and elitist.
I just like doing
that. And like most of these people are not that elitist.
Well, somewhat. But I think they think they're elitist, maybe. But regardless.
That's true. They think they are, but like if you actually follow them or read some of their takes, like, not really. And also most of them are justified in their takes. I haven't read most of them today yet, but I can imagine what their takes are, and I would just say I agree, because not a lot of stuff working here.
So we were talking about this before. So this latest, I guess we'll say spoilers for the latest episode of Ted Lasso. But again, so I think is this the 10th episode?
It's the 10th, so there's 2 more.
There's 2 left. This is the anti-penultimate episode. Now you think about a show, Joyce, like Succession, which I'm sure we'll talk about just in general, and not to compare Ted Lasso to Succession, but to compare Ted Lasso to Succession. In the anti-penultimate episode of Succession, boy, a lot of stuff kind of happened. Really kind of sets us off into the last 2 episodes. Finally get the reveal of Shiv, and with Matsson, Kendall versus Shiv. Roman kind of feeling his oats. A fascist was elected. Tom finds out Shiv is pregnant. All these huge machinations that we've been building towards throughout the season come together in one episode, and then we spring off into see what happens in the finale. The last 2. And for Ted Lasso, boy, it's been a lot of meandering this season, like we said, with these long episodes. And then some key things that I was like, I don't disagree with creatively, but I just am like left a little perplexed.
How did we get here? Like, we knew, I mean, it's not shocking to anyone, even back last season, that they would redeem Nate.
No.
But it's just like, how did we, like, the way they got here, just not great, Bob. That gif.
So Nate, again, spoilers here. If you haven't watched Ted Lasso yet, don't be mad at me for saying this. But Nate ends up losing. He quits as his coaching job at West Ham, and now he's in a depression and a funk at home, and he kind of ends up reconnecting with his like violin and having a heart-to-heart with his dad, and all of these things happen, and kind of just are like, I didn't agree. I have not disliked the season, and I actually thought this was like one of the best episodes of the season in a bubble. Certainly, I really enjoyed it. I thought there were so many good things in this episode, but I was like, this should have maybe happened in the first quarter of the season. Like, I don't think you could, like, the redemption of Nate, I feel like they could have spent more time on the redemption part and like less time on, like, we already know he kind of fractured with Ted at the end of last season, obviously. And then he ended the season as the coach of his biggest rival and was acting like a huge asshole. And then like, you could have just had all this happen in the first like 3 episodes and then had the rest of the season to redeem him, I guess I would say. Not that I'm a TV writer, Joyce, and certainly I don't envy TV writers or even have the skills to be a TV writer. But I was just like, if I was doing this, maybe that would have been my take.
It just feels like it feels like the show is kind of at war with itself. Like, it's a very different show than what it was in season 1.
Mm-hmm.
It's the length, obviously. Like they still have a lot of feel-good moments. Like they're still very good at those, deploying those. Like the violin montage over Hannah's speech, like, just manufactured to make you cry and feel good about soccer. So like they're so good at that stuff. But like now with the long running times, especially, it feels like it wants to be a prestige drama, but it's not willing to let go of its comedy sitcom roots. And the thing with drama and in TV is that there is a lot of tension and twists and friction. And it feels like because of the show's thesis statement of being nice too, it's afraid to confront that. It's afraid to show like anything like that. Like it's fine leading up to it, like season 2 building up to Nate's villain era. But when he actually gets there and goes to West Ham, like we could have had a series of games in the first quarter of the season of them facing off, and even like him and Ted or like him and Will, having conversations. And it's like, we just had that one brief elevator scene between him and Ted. It's like, they're afraid to have these moments to like actually show him in his villain era. And instead they just kind of turned it into this rom-com and like they're redeeming him via a girl who was previously rude to him, and just now they're in love because of baklava. I don't know. It's like it's weird. It's like manic pixie dream girl but with a hostess. And then like with him quitting West Ham now, it's like they could have shown that. I think it would only work with them not showing it had they worked up to it. But because they hadn't put in the work, it feels like we're missing just even a whole episode of him having this like come to Jesus moment. Like we see even in this episode, Roy have that come to Jesus moment about Keeley, and then we have that reconciliation at the end. But it's like, this is like such a huge plot point of the show. Like Nate, it's literally siloed in off his own corner of the world. He has interacted with nobody from the main cast this season. And it's like, they don't feel like they need to show him realizing after the end of last week's episode that he needs to quit. Like even like a scene of him quitting to Rupert would have been enough,
Yeah. I can't really disagree, I guess, but and that said, all of this said, and I think these are very I think these are fair criticisms, certainly of the Nate stuff, which I just and while I don't think Nick Mohammed is doing anything wrong,
he's still great in the role. He's doing what he can with it, nobody is bad.
And the fact that he generates I mean, you might disagree with this, but he actually generates empathy for Nate, even though I'm like, fuck Nate, right? Like,
but like the thing is, like, yeah, like what you were saying before, like in a vacuum, like it works. Like if you just see this girl, like coming up to him, like he's found love, like, oh, that's sweet and nice. But when you think about the overview, like the larger picture, it's like this, like plot wise, like the serialized storytelling, this doesn't actually work that well. And like the thing was, like this season, one of the best part, if not the best part, is Jamie's arc. And that really works. It's because we've put in 3 years of work into it, right?
I think Jamie stuff, and even in this episode, kills. He's so good, and like he remains good, and it's like they've done amazing work kind of rebuilding that character and making you feel something for him. And Phil Dunster has done a great job doing that. And with Nate, it does feel like they've kind of skipped a bunch of steps. And it's also not helped that, to me, again, Ted Lasso is not the main focus of Ted Lasso.
He was not in this episode a whole bunch.
So that's another issue I had, I guess, where I was just like, again, I get that this is what they're tracking towards, but I feel like if we're going to end the last 2 episodes with like a big, like the season started with Ted sending his son off back to America and like feeling really bad.
He's
and
then like home.
Sending him, what's that?
He's going to go home.
And then we know he's going to go home, and having that conversation with his wife, and the wife and his ex-wife, or a strange wife, being like, maybe I think it was episode 5 where it ends with them having a conversation, and you kind of are left with thinking like, maybe she'll be like, oh, maybe we could get back together, right? Or that's at least kind of inferred. And then going through her relationship with their doctor and all these things that we've kind of now not really thought about for like 3 episodes, it feels like that will all come back in the finale, and we'll have a big moment where he's going to come back. And I'm a little I know that Jason Sudeikis will crush it, and I'm sure, like you said, like the individual moments will be good. But I feel like because he's not in it that much, we've been robbed of like building to that moment, and it's just going to kind of drop in on us, just like the Nate stuff did in this episode. And I don't know, I'm just a little disappointed with that. And that all said, I still have not moved Ted Lasso at first in my picks.
I haven't either.
And I'm only more based on the last 2 episodes, which, like I said, I think have actually been good in the bubble episodes. I'm only more sure of it winning a third time, because I just think people will remember this as, when they think back on the season, while all of these are valid criticisms, I think they're going to be like, yeah, but the end was great, and like that moment when Roy had the press conference was cool, and this was great, and they're just going to be like, yes, like let's go. Third win.
You know what I've always said about movies: if we have a good beginning and a good ending, people will remember it, and they're not going to remember much in the middle. And then like with Ted, especially now, you know, with a billion shows, and I'm sure there are definitely, like, I know of at least one person, industry person, who is not a fan of the length of the episodes.
Right.
But yeah, like they still are really good, Ted, at executing these nice, you know, warm and fuzzy moments. Like that press conference moment, amazing Emmy clip for Brett Goldstein.
And then this week, a bunch of other Emmy clips.
Amazing Emmy clip for Hannah. But like that press conference, it works as a viral clip.
Yes.
Right? And you watch it and like, amazing 2 minutes, like what a story. But if you think about it a little bit more, it's like the whole point of his speech was that you know, we never know what's going on in other people's lives, so it's none of our business, right? But then he just aired his former teammates' business to the whole world, and they could easily just Google and figure out who that guy was, you know, right, who had a miscarriage. Like you're just airing his business. Like, why, dude? Like, he just, and like your whole point is that is none of our business, and we don't know what people are going through. And I feel like that's something where they could have just changed the identity of that person from teammate to just like a friend, like a normie, not famous person of Roy's, and it still would have landed. You know?
Yeah.
Like maybe it was just his regular friend, they were at a bar, and then his friend punched him.
Yeah.
You know? So it's like he did not need to be a public figure that people can figure out.
No.
So
no, I mean, I have nothing. There's no, I totally agree. I at the same time, like I think, I mean, to say
yeah, but
positive,
it's still a great moment. I think people will remember it. Yeah. So.
And I guess I would say, like, I still think it's gonna win. I'm not. There's nothing. I rewatched The Bear. I think. I rewatched The Bear, and I was like, oh, it's great, but I just don't think it's gonna win. I just don't think it is. I don't know. I guess it depends how good the second season is, but like, I'm not convinced it could beat Ted.
I'm just wary of it because it is, you know, a drama.
Right.
Like, but it does have a lot of passion. And I think like season 2 will be bigger, coming in a month.
June that trailer was released this week, Joyce.
Yes, it was. And so it's coming out the last 4 days of nominations voting. The thing is, it's like it doesn't need to worry about the nominations. It's about the win.
Right.
So
I'm having rewatched the season, and it's funny, like you said, like good beginning and good ending. And I'll be curious to see how the second season plays out with this in mind. That was a movie, The Bear. They had kind of fashioned it as a movie, right? Or in the initial stages, the idea of it was for a movie. I think
like the Bear cinematic universe.
Well, no, just in general, like they were like, this is it was envisioned as a movie, and then they kind of turned it into a show, right? And like obviously worked from there. And if you watch it, it's like, man, the finale is incredible, and the pilot is incredible, and everything in the middle I think is good, because I think you like the characters and you get to know them. But I'm like, that show is the beginning and end, and that's really it, right? Like, I mean, you could watch the first episode and the last episode and totally understand what's happening. And I'll be curious
because they're not they literally changed the restaurant in the finale, so you're waiting for the next chapter.
So I'd love to see how the second season plays out, and if the second season is more like a TV show in that regard, even like, you know what I mean? Like, I just think there's, we'll see. And I was like enthused by the trailer. I think it made it look like a completely different show, though, to me, a little.
They did. So at TCA in January, they had a panel, and they did talk about how, I mean, like, one thing I love about them is like the powers that be, like, they don't really care about the quote unquote drama criticisms or whatever, but neither do I. And but they were like, yeah, we think, like, you know, basically paraphrasing, like, we think there's more humor in season 2.
Right.
So it's just like, but like to them, it's more about like the storytelling and what lends itself to the comedy.
Right.
So yeah.
And yeah, like we talked about, like, I mean, Abbott remains second in the odds, even though I think we both have the Bear second. But I'm like, Abbott, I just don't know if there's enough enthusiasm for it industry-wide to unseat Ted. And I'd say that this I feel very true. The highs of Ted season 3 are higher than the highs of Abbott season 2. And while Abbott season 2 might have been a more cohesive season, and Ted is obviously not finished yet, I think that Ted still has got like the better moments.
I mean, it's hard to compare them because I don't think the stuff that Ted goes for is what Abbott goes for, right?
Right.
Like, Abbott is just a traditional network sitcom.
Right.
So yeah, like it's very old school and throwback. So I don't, like, it's not trying to make you cry, like, you know, every episode for a couple scenes.
No, but I do think it's trying to. Abbott definitely in the second half of the season wanted you. It's way more. I think it's more serious within the its genre. You know, I mean, they're trying. I think they were trying to.
Well, yeah, I mean, like they developed the mom storyline more, but even, you know, with like her introduction, Taraji P. Henson, like that, it's still, they're not playing it for drama like Ted is with a lot of its storylines. Like, that's her character is still very comedic. Like, the most dramatic scene was the scene between Quinta and Io at a beer in the street.
Right.
And they're arguing.
Right.
So yeah, I think, yeah, it's hard to compare because they're doing different things. But it is consistently funny and enjoyable. And I don't know, like, you know, it didn't do that well in the winter, as we've talked about. Like, it did fine, but it could have done better. And the Bear beat it at a few places, the Guild. So I feel like the Bear has more passion than Abbott, but Abbott is the more traditional winner that they would have, because it is lighter and more comedic.
So we talked about this, I think, in the column maybe this past week, that Abbott could maybe win 3 acting awards. And still,
I mean, the actors are its biggest supporters.
And still, even if it did, I still think Ted would still win series. I think it would be like,
yeah, well, everyone votes in series. Yeah. It's kind of like the morning show. We got, what, 5 acting nominations in season 1, did not make series.
Right. I just think that even with 3 acting wins for Abbott, which I'm not predicting, and I actually don't think will happen, though I could see it happening, I still think that Ted would win. And those are the only 3 I think could actually win. Like, I don't think anything else has a shot.
No, I mean, you know, I obviously want Barry to win. That's not going to happen.
No, and I would say pound for pound, Mrs. Maisel is the best season of these runners. I think the final.
I finished the season a couple days ago.
Really good.
I like the finale.
Yeah, finale's great. I loved it.
Yeah, and we could. When it's next week? So yeah, we could talk about it next week. Yeah, or maybe the week after. Yeah, the week after, probably.
Yeah, it was great. I loved it so much, and I think it's a great season, but I don't think it could win. Barry, like you said, I think you're obviously right. It seems like a lot, like an acclaimed final season going out on a high.
Love it so much, and I've seen, they sent 7 of the 8, so I've obviously seen 7, and after I finished watching that, I was like, I truly have no idea how it's going to end. And I love that feeling. I'm like, you have 30 minutes left, no clue what you're going to do with all these threads. But great. 7 is coming up this weekend, and another great, highly just peak stuff from Anthony Carrigan. Again, there's a great, it's not, I wouldn't say it's action, but there is a car involved, and this is the episode with the Fast and the Furious shout out, which is timely too. So
a lot of Fast and Furious shout outs. Yeah. Bupkis had a big one too, a whole episode.
Yeah, that was like that. I love that car chase in that one because they didn't even try to make it look real.
No, it's great. And you know, it's funny. I watched the screener of Bupkis, and it was like even worse. But it's funny. They made it look even slightly better, but still fake. But it was like even worse in the previs or whatever one that they sent around for press. You know, like the not finished version.
I love watching screeners of unfinished effects. It's
great.
Like my favorite thing. And then like sometimes I don't watch the final air, so then I'm just like, if it's a green screen, I'm like, guess I'll never know what this is.
That happened with me on White Lotus, and we had to rewatch. I mean, when they show
like the picture, yeah,
the picture, I never saw that really because it was not on it.
You're just like, I don't know. Well, sometimes like some screeners, like they'll in text, they'll tell you what you're supposed to be looking at, which is helpful.
Not that one.
But not all of them do that. So
and Only Murders, Joyce. I mean, that comes back August 8th. We found out this week.
Which Martin Short already spoiled on their tour like 2 weeks ago.
Yes. And then nobody picked it up. One person picked it up and nobody really wrote about it. And then yesterday they were like, it's August 8th.
Yeah, so I think that's a good date. Because again, like The Bear, it's fine nomination wise, so it needs to focus on the wins.
Right.
So yeah, it'll come out a week before final voting starts. But I don't really see it winning. Like I love the show, but I
agree.
And I'm kind of hoping, with the strike that we'll likely probably have a dearth of new content in the fall. I mean, ABC, had their upfronts yesterday, and just their fall schedule, reality TV, unscripted TV all the time, except for repeats of Abbott Elementary Wednesdays at 9.
Yes.
So I'm hoping maybe like over the winter, Only Murder can maybe win something somewhere. I don't know, but
with less stuff, yeah, the idea would be that it could kind of.
I don't know, but I kind of feel like The Bear will probably just sweep or half sweep. I don't know.
Yeah. I think so. We can just move for actress choice. I still have Rachel Brosnahan in first.
Oh, I love how you don't even want to try to fill out the other 2 slots in comedy series.
Well, I mean, they're the same ones. I have Shrinking, which I don't know if you have.
No, because again, I just haven't touched this since like March? I don't know.
And I have Party Down on just a wing and a prayer, even though I don't think it'll get in because I liked it. But in our odds, it's Poker Face and Wednesday. I'm just not convinced Poker Face is going to be in there.
So my 2 are What We Do in the Shadows and Poker Face, and I don't even know if either of them will get in. So
I mean, I would say What We Do in the Shadows and maybe The Great have a better chance of getting in than Poker Face and Wednesday.
I would love The Great to get in, but I'm not sure because it's never gotten in and it just dropped.
I mean, 5 years ago. I don't know. I'm just like I just don't believe. I'm not buying the Poker Face. Despite my very much enjoyment of it, I just feel like Peacock. I don't feel like it is going to break through yet.
I can see. I mean, I can see Peacock breaking through with like Natasha or the show, but I don't know what else. Like I don't know if like Ryan Johnson would get in. It has so many guest stars. I still have a couple guest stars, but I'm not sure about them at all. But I just kept it in there. I don't know. I mean, like Shrinking, I can see happening. Like it's as we've talked about, the Ted heir apparent.
Yeah. I think Shrinking, I feel like Shrinking to me is pretty safe because I think like it came out early enough that people watched it. It's Apple, so they're putting a lot of oomph behind it still. And it was well received and like people liked it. And I think the more these Ted Lasso episodes are little shaggy, the more Shrinking looks like really well oiled machine.
Yeah. It's not disjointed. 30 minutes,
And obviously like Wednesday, like we talked about, is like a humongous hit. But I'm not sure like it is the type of thing that would get him to be. But Jenna Ortega I have getting in, but I'm not sure the show would get in.
Yeah, I don't know either. I feel like if it were competing 2 years ago, it would definitely get in, like Emily in Paris and Bridgerton style.
One of the shows I was thinking, I'll give you a couple of names of shows I'm not going to predict, but I was like, was one would be Ghosts, which I think I may have ended up with.
You had that
last year. and it's remained like a huge hit. Like people really do watch it, but I just am not sure it has any juice for Academy members.
Yeah, I don't think so either. It feels like they're just like it's like a blind spot for them.
Right. The other one was Jury Duty, which people love.
I love Jury Duty.
And it's kind of popping in the social media world the last couple of months. I don't know. I'm like, I can't, but at the same time, like, do people watch it?
It's on Freevee.
Right. So
Jury Duty is great. They really the thing I want, or the category I want Jury Duty to get into is casting.
Yes.
Because that show would not work without the casting of the actors, obviously, but most importantly, Ronald. Like they totally lucked out with Ronald. Yeah, so I mean if I were voting, I would have Jury Duty, but I don't know. Like I would love, I would say it's a win if they could get into casting and supporting actor for James Marsden.
Right. So it's like, and like that's the thing. I'm like, I don't think like these. I'm saying Peacock isn't going to have breakthrough, and Freevee, while it probably has way more people aware it exists, is not like a thing that people are really paying attention to. I would say, right? Like, I don't know.
I mean, the good thing for it is that it came out early-ish enough, or like the whole show was out, and now it all dropped in, or it dropped over the course of April, and it is a word of mouth hit. Like over the past couple weeks, like I've seen more and more people just like tweets saying like, oh, they just started Jury Duty,
right,
and they love it. So, but they're not voters.
No,
so hopefully voters are doing it too.
I don't know. So maybe, I mean, like, I think if this was a set 6, we'd be really in. I feel like I'd go 6 for 6 if this was just 6.
Yeah, I mean, I could see, now with the restricted ballot, I would not be surprised if somebody somewhere got in. Like that's like this tiny critical darling, but I'm not gonna go there.
No.
There's Schmigadoon, which has to stay here now.
Yes.
In comedy, because it's not a variety scripted
series.
series.
Not predicting that one.
No. What about the Night Court?
I mean, that I think would go in the same league as Ghosts, a network show that, like, while it does have the legacy aspect of it, but I'm like, I still think it's like something that not necessarily people are like that super hip to, even though it was popular, like with viewers.
Yeah.
And I know it had like past, obviously, success, but I'm just like, no, sorry.
I feel like it's going to be top heavy, and I don't know what else people are watching.
Well, that was why. So that's why, like, I mean,
presume that they have more time to watch things, but I don't know if they are or they will.
Right. So that's why I think the top 6 are pretty set, and I think Shrinking kind of locks in there because they came out earlier in the year and has like the fact that it is so many like big name producers is like got people paying attention to it, maybe more so. And then I don't know, that I think that last spot could be like a passion pick. So that's why I went with Party Down, because I'm like, maybe enough people really love it. If you're a big,
yeah,
I mean, it's so good.
The original did really well.
Well, no, but like the original had, now you have 15, it's a different Academy, let's say, right? 15 years have gone by, and it's like really good. They actually did an amazing job bringing it back. It's so funny. It didn't miss a beat. And I'm just like, maybe it gets in like Andrea Riseborough style. I mean, all it takes is
I don't
just rank it number 1.
I don't actually think like they care about these revivals and stuff. Like Will and Grace, the original run was a huge hit. They didn't care at all about the revival.
No, you're right.
So, and same, Roseanne and the Connors too.
Right.
So.
I mean, not wrong. I'm just gonna keep it there with Hope Diction. For actress choice, like I was going to. I tried to sneak it in there. You wouldn't let me, but I'll go back to it now.
Or 8 slots, okay.
Fine. I
didn't make these rules.
I know you didn't make the rules. I have Rachel Brosnahan winning, like I said. I love her in this season, and I think I'm not convinced Quinta Brunson will win for Abbott. And I just am like, I don't know. Rachel is 4th in our odds behind Quinta Brunson, Jenna Ortega, and Christina Applegate. Of those 3, I would say Christina Applegate would probably be a better shot to win than Jenna, certainly. And I could see like coin flip between her and Quinta. I don't know.
Between Quinta and Christina?
Yeah.
Maybe. I would love to see Christina win. And I think she can get in because they just like her.
Yeah.
Like she got in by herself the first season of Dead to Me. She's a past winner. She won for Friends 20 years ago. They nominated her Samantha Who. So yeah, I think she can get in. I don't know. She has the material, like the performance to win, but I also don't know if like her like if the show is like strong enough to help her, because I feel like that kind of matters. And obviously she has her own personal narrative, for lack of a better word. This is her final, as she says, final on-screen role because of her MS diagnosis, unfortunately. And yeah, you could say like, that's would elicit sympathy, but I don't even know if they're like that sentimental about it. But
to win or to get her nominated?
To win.
Yeah. I definitely feel like, I mean, like, I would actually be surprised if she didn't get nominated, but yeah, I don't know. I know we've talked about this, TM. We've talked about this. I know they don't like to go back to people they've already had win, but Rachel Brosnahan, I feel like, has their reasons for why she maybe didn't win again, in the last 3 seasons. And she's great in the final season. And I just think the show is good. And in a week, in what I would say is a lineup without a true locked in front runner, she could win.
It's funny because this category, I mean, it was a different system, but starting with Jennifer Aniston in 2002 until Melissa McCarthy in 2011, we just had one-offs. It was like no repeats at all. And then obviously we had JLD dominating for 6 years, and then she took a year off and Rachel won. And then JLD wasn't able to get the 7th, and Phoebe Waller-Bridge won on the back of Fleabag being a massive phenomenon. And then we had the Schitt's sweep with Catherine O'Hara, and then obviously Jean Smart the past 2 years. Yeah, so I don't like, maybe like, without Jean here, who, as we've said before, for like the past 2 years, like she feels like a JLD who would just dominate every time she's in contention. Yeah, it's kind of like up for grabs. And I could make a case for I wouldn't say all of these people to win, but multiple people to win, including Rachel. Because like you said, there are explainable reasons for why she has not won more than once.
Right.
And now there is no juggernaut standing in her way, and it is the last season. But I feel like with shows that are ending and started their Emmy run as a hit, like, they were winning off the bat, as opposed to shows that won later on in their run. Obviously Maisel does not win that much anymore, it still gets a nomination, and I feel like that's might be what's going to happen to the show. Like, it's going to still bring in the nominations, but it's not really going to win a ton of above the line stuff, at least, because it still has its core fan base, but like the casuals have maybe kind of moved on from it. She does, like, the finale would be an amazing tape for her.
Yeah, really
like,
good.
Like a major spotlight for her. Yeah,
really good. I mean, like, really good. And I think the material is like definitely there for her to win. The other people I have, so we mentioned Rachel, Quinta Brunson, Christine Applegate, Jenna Ortega I have, and then I'm gotta keep my Selena-nators. What do you call them, Joyce?
Selena-nators
happy. So I have Selena in there, and then
what's
Elle
gonna happen if she misses?
Don't blame me. I picked her. I don't know. Send a letter to the TV Academy. And I have Elle Fanning in for the grade. That's my 6. No, Natasha Lyonne for me.
I have Natasha. I think in like or hopefully in this world too, but in like another universe, Elle is win competitive. I mean, she is win competitive, but like she could actually win.
Mm-hmm.
Because she is, as usual, still great this season. But I guess we'll do spoilers for The Great.
Yeah.
If you haven't watched The Great, which dropped its entire season on Friday.
Yeah.
Skip this part. Nicholas Hoult dies, or Peter dies.
Yes.
In the 6th episode, but he's still on the whole season, as Peter's lookalike, who then dies in the finale, which is amazing. So he dies twice. But after that death, just an incredible arc for Catherine, for Elle. Like Catherine's in this, she's just experienced like manic grief, like, and it's so fun is not the right word, but it's great to watch Elle perform it.
Right.
And then she has a great moment in the finale. Like Catherine finally has this like catharsis, and then she's like dancing around to "You Shook Me All Night Long." So the back half of the season is just a real showcase for Elle as she's reeling from the death of Peter. So if they watch it, or even, if you were into tape system, I would say like she could totally win. Honestly, like she could have won last year under the tape system. She had a good tape last year too. So,
I mean, I feel like she's safe to get in because she got in.
I hope so. I mean, they got in last year. They didn't get in for the first season.
Right. But I feel like it's less competitive this year than it maybe was last year, I would argue. I don't know. This just feels like it really kind of drops off. No offense to these performances, but like for a nomination's sake, I'm just like, I don't believe that there's a lot of other people here who would seriously be considered, maybe.
I mean, as you know, I had Linda Cardellini for a while.
Right. And I mean, obviously Natasha, like you said, I think you have her, so I mean, she would get in. She can get in. I don't have her in.
I mean, I could see, like Bridget Everett, like just getting on in Passion, similarly, like a Pamela Adlon situation.
If it was me, I would put Tatiana Maslany because I thought she was great on She-Hulk. It's a great show. It was so much fun, and she ruled. But I don't think she's going to get in. So
I feel like, unfortunately, that show has been kind of forgotten.
Yeah.
But we have Loki to look forward to in October. So
was that Loki season 2?
Loki. Yeah, I know. It was going to be July, but now it's October.
Yeah, I wonder what happened there. Weird. I will say She-Hulk is my favorite Marvel show, I would say.
Wow.
It was so good. It's like really, really fun. Loki season 1 a close second.
I don't know what's my I like WandaVision, Loki. I also greatly enjoy Hawkeye. Underrated.
I was not a big Hawkeye guy.
Love Hawkeye.
You love Renner though. You love Renner.
I love Renner. I mean, like, as you know, I was devastated when his accident happened on New Year's Day. Yeah.
For actor Joyce, so while it's not, it's definitely tightened up in our odds. I think they're neck and neck, but I have Jeremy Allen White just to me, it would be a runaway.
Always.
What, you broke up there? What was that?
Oh, I've always had him.
Just like we were saying earlier, Ted Lasso, not in Ted Lasso that much this season. And while Jason has been great in the performance, Jeremy Allen White just rolls on the bear. He's so good.
What do you think Jason's screen time was in this episode? Like, was it more than 10 minutes?
Because it's a 61-minute episode. I would say less than
3 minutes.
I would say less than 10 minutes. I don't even know.
Yeah, I think it was less than 10.
But I mean, Jeremy on the Bear is just incredible, and it's so good. And he has, I mean, again, the material in the finale alone would get him, I feel like, a win. Just it's an incredible moments in the finale.
He swept the winter.
Yeah.
And I feel like regardless of what happens in series, like he is, I hesitate to say safe, but I'm like, I feel like he's pretty far ahead.
I agree. We will not spend a lot of time on this, I gotta say, because there's just not a lot here to talk about. I mean, the other nominees will be probably Bill Hader for Barry, Martin Short and Steve Martin for Only Murders, and then the 6th spot I have Jason Segel, who's 6th in our odds as well. But I think you can make a case for Nicholas Hoult for The Great again.
I have Nick.
Yeah. But I would say those are the seven people. I don't think Donald Glover will get in for Atlanta, even though he's ahead of Nicholas Hoult in our odds. And then from there, you've got, I don't know. I think people would want to see Nathan Fielder get in, but I don't believe that'll happen.
Yeah, you're not gonna go for your guy Adam Scott for Party Down?
Well, boy, I'd really love to, but I'm not going to do it. I just don't believe that it can happen. But he's great. He's so good on Party Down.
Yeah, I don't even know who else is in there. Oh, there's Bob Odenkirk for Lucky Hank, which I don't think is gonna happen.
Stallone for Tulsa King.
Sly?
Yeah.
You're gonna go there?
No. John Larroquette for Night Court?
Probably not, but he has enough Emmys at home, for the original.
I mean, I will say, out of the top, again, this is similar to series. I think the top 5 are locked, and then the 6th, we'll see. I don't know. I mean, any of these, it would be not a surprise to me if any of the people we just mentioned got nominated. But I don't believe.
I mean, it was kind of like last year too, yes. And then the people who got in were Donald Glover and Nicholas Hoult.
Right.
So, yeah.
I mean, Nicholas Hoult could get in again. Supporting actress in comedy. This one also feels like pretty balanced, I would say, or just sad. I have the top 8 that are in our odds. I have Cheryl Lee Ralph, Hannah Waddingham, Iowa DeVere, Janelle James, Alex Borstein, Lisa Ann Walter, Juno Temple, and Sarah Goldberg.
Yeah, we talked about this last week. I did think about dropping Juno, but I did not. So
when we talked about this, TM, we said, like, we'll see how she had not done anything really for the first most of the season, but I think the last few episodes, last couple, have been enough to maintain her spot.
I mean, she had stuff to do, but it was just, off to the side with her firm. And then the way they reconciled that storyline with, like, oh, Rebecca's like, I'll fund your firm. Like, okay. But now, Roy and Keely back together again.
Sure. I'm fine with that. I love Roy and Keely together. Great.
Yeah. And
I don't have Hannah winning. I still have Cheryl Lee Ralph winning now. I moved off of Hannah.
I still have Cheryl. I've always had Cheryl.
I had Hannah, and then I was like, now I'm like, no.
Hannah was another one who she was like waiting for more material, and she got some this week. So
I'll be curious to see. I don't, again, like we said, every part of the show remains top notch, but I'm like, I think Cheryl's got the better narrative, and I think the stuff that she did in the season of Abbott, it feels like they gave her more to do, and she was even better than she was in the first season.
I mean, they gave everybody, like, they basically gave everybody an Emmy tape this season, right, which I love. It's so old school. I love them doing that. If only tapes mattered. But yeah, she had a lot of great moments. Especially the reveal about her husband too, during the fire. And I don't, if Janelle and Lisa both get in, I don't really see either of them like hurting her that much. Like, she already proved that she could beat Janelle last year.
Yes.
And I can make a case for Janelle winning this year.
I was going to say, I can make a case for Janelle having less to do this year than she did last year. And Ava largely wasn't as funny or as successful as a character.
No, but she's still the one with, like the one-liners.
Yeah.
But she's the loudest personality.
But Lisa Walter gave her a run for her money, I think, this year. And
Lisa Walter, I just want her to get in because she's so underrated.
Would be great.
So it'll be great. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, obviously, I hope my girl Sarah Goldberg gets back in.
I mean, I got her in. I feel like the other thing that's helping is, like, I don't know who would get in ahead of her. According to her odds, it would be she's in, but it would be Cecily Strong next in line, then Jessica Williams, and then Jane Krakowski.
Cecily for SNL, I don't know. She was never a automatic check like Kate McKinnon was, and she was only in 6 episodes. this season that has now ended because of the strike. You know, no one's mad that she's in supporting instead of guest, but they're mad about Brian Cox not being in guest. So yeah, so I'm not sure about her. I can see this being SNL-less. And Jessica Williams I can see happening if they're big on shrinking. I really loved her on the show, and she has great chemistry with everyone. She gets to play with everyone on the show.
Just incredible.
Yeah.
So good.
And Jane is she obviously has her big number in the 3rd episode. So I think that like with that, I think it's a matter of the actors seeing it and deciding that she is their favorite, because I really like season 2 of Schmigadoon. I thought everyone was fantastic, and I feel like she might not be like the consensus favorite necessarily.
Yeah,
you know, like that was a great show-stopping number, but I mean, like I love like Kristen Chenoweth and Alan Cumming and like Good Enough to Eat, you know, like you know, Dove Cameron was great. So I don't know.
Would be maybe a great guest winner.
She's
in it too much, but she's not in it that much.
Yeah, a lot of like most of them are not. Most of them are not in all 6 episodes. The only people in all 6 episodes are for sure are Keegan-Michael Key and Cecily Strong.
Yes.
I think Ariana DeBose is in 3. Yes. She's in the first 2 in the finale. Like when she came back in the finale, I was like, oh, right. So, yeah. And I mean, who else is there?
On the show? I mean, Titus Burgess, I think, was in it a lot also because he has the intros.
Well, yeah, he's a narrator, but yeah. But then like in this category, I don't know, like Molly Shannon is pretty high for the other 2, but I don't think that's gonna happen. That's just another show that's not on their radar. And I love it, but I'm just like, I can't justify predicting it anywhere really. I mean, if it happens, like that'll be great, but yeah.
For supporting actor, Joyce, again, we talked about this already. We talked about this in our column, but I'm going out on a limb for my final 3. But the top 5 I have are Brett Goldstein, Tyler James Williams, Henry Winkler, Harrison Ford, and Anthony Carrigan, which are the top 5 in our odds. And then I'm just going ham, and I have Abon Moss-Bacharach, Phil Dunster, and Chris Perfetti, leaving off Tony Shalhoub and Nick Mohammed.
I don't have Nick either, but I still have Stephen Root that I put in months ago. And I'm gonna probably keep him there until July 11th.
Okay, then change him.
But I mean, you know, now we finally have the Raven, because now we have our 8-year time jump. So everyone's met the Raven now. He got out of jail, all tattooed up. Just a hysterical reintroduction to him in this past week's episode.
Right.
But yeah, I don't know if Barry can get all 3 in again, but I'm just gonna hope dictum now and probably replace him with Harrison Ford in July. With Harrison is like someone I'm not like worried about. You know, it's like I know people are predicting him.
Yeah.
And like I don't even care if he gets in or not, but it's like I know he's being predicted, so it doesn't matter if like I have him right now or not.
I get it. He's 4th in the odds.
Yeah.
I like we've been saying, Brett Goldstein on Ted Lasso continues to rule. I see no reason why he would lose for this season, and he's got nothing but good material. And Tyler James Williams maybe had the episode that was specifically about award season, but he does not have anything like Brett Goldstein, I don't think, in comparison. So I would have him winning.
Yeah, I still have Brett in first. And he's had, you know, 2 good back-to-back episodes between the press conference and then him and Keeley, or him reading his note to Keeley.
Roy Kent.
Together. Yeah. And then, you know, he wore color this episode. Roy.
Loved it so much.
Red, orange, yellow.
And they brought back his niece, which I know a lot of fans were like mad that she wasn't in it that much.
Yeah, but the best joke was in that scene when Jamie gives him the jersey.
Hilarious.
He's like, I got them to change the E to a U.
So good. Just so good.
I did think about putting in Phil, but I did not.
I put Phil in last week, and then this week with the moment he has with Sam, I was just like, oh, this is in. He's in. I think if the show, people love. To me, it feels like he will get carried in because people do still like the show, and they like it enough.
I mean, you could have said that for the first 2 seasons, you know.
I feel like no, because he was kind of such a jerk at times, and I feel like they really softened him.
I mean, like, so was Nate, and like he was nominated. So it's, yeah, I would hope, you know, whatever misgivings you have about the season, that he can overcome any of it. I mean, again, I still have Ted in first, so they could still just be completely enamored with it and like don't care about anything,
right.
Any of the criticisms, you know. So, and yeah, but it like, I would feel bad like if this is the last season of the show, if he never got in, like Courtney Cox.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I currently only have one Ted person, Brett.
Wow. I have the 2 of them, but I don't have Nick, and I do have Chris Perfetti and Ebon Moss-Bacharach.
Yeah, I put Eben in. I also thought about in the guest categories putting in like either Oliver Platt or John Bernthal.
I have John Bernthal. I've had him in.
Yeah, I was like, I can see it overperforming with actors.
Also, like we want to go. I mean, we could go. I mean, his performance is awesome. He is like a great thing, and like the character is so emotionally impactful, especially in the finale. Even though he's in the finale, just his face, but he's like actually in like the previous episode, I believe, or the one before it, the 6th episode. It's just great. I have him in.
Yeah, so I could see The Bear having acting nominations beyond Jeremy and Io.
Yeah. I'm thinking it will.
But I still have Tony, which you do not.
I don't. I just as much as I love the final season, Mrs. Maisel, I just think he's like the 3rd most important supporting male. And while he could easily be a name check and they could just do it all over again and just run it back, he has not a lot to do at all. And I think there's like one good scene with him towards the end. But I mean, compared to like Reed Scott and Michael Zegan, he's not nearly as important to the show.
I don't think that matters because like he's in it enough as a supporting character. And he does have enough material as a supporting character. Like he had a great scene last week when he was like when he couldn't believe that Ethan was not smart. Like the whole dinner table scene was great with him. And like that's enough stuff. It's like it's
maybe I guess
like we need to stop treating supporting characters like they're leads because leads are frauding themselves.
I don't mean that he doesn't have enough stuff I just think it's not good enough. Just like compared to the other 2, they're so much better. And
I don't think necessarily Reed or Michael are that much better than him. Like I think they're all great, but I wouldn't say like they're light years better than Tony. And I like, again, I feel like it, like the show would still have its core base of fans, and I don't really see them deviating from Rachel, Alex, and Tony, whom they've nominated
every time
season.
I understand that, but I'm just like, I don't care. I'm just going down with the ship on these people I like more. And I would love to predict Reed Scott, but he's not even in our thing, I don't think. And no one was, but he rules in this season. He's so good.
I mean, I would rather Michael get in before Reed since he's never gotten in before.
Michael's great too. I would love that. The only other person one person I wanted to mention before we move on would be your favorite, you mentioned before, James Marsden for Jury
Just
Duty.
An iconic performance. So good.
I don't think he's gonna.
But they didn't even nominate him for Dead to Me.
No.
2 years ago, when he came back as Ben's twin.
Yeah.
Right, Steve. I always mix up their names, Steve and Ben.
I don't remember.
Yeah, but he's just so good on Jury Duty. Like when he does the jump scare, and then when he finds out he didn't get Lone Pine, it's like, which Chris?
So good. That's a good meme. I've seen that one going around.
Yeah.
We could quickly do the guest actors, and I have a couple emails, Joyce, I could read us before we sign off. Are you were out on SNL, but I have Quinta Brunson winning here for SNL. Then I have Taraji P. Henson, Sarah Niles, who I'm less sure of because she's not been in it at all, but I'm assuming she's not been in a lot, but I'm assuming she'll have like one more show up this season, maybe, based on, again, like the story that we're telling with Ted. Charlotte McLean, Iowa DeBerry for Abbott, and Molly Shannon for SNL. So I have 2 SNLs.
I have no SNL.
Yeah.
I have Taraji, Harriet Walter for Ted, Cherry Jones for Poker Face, Lauren Wheatman for Abbott, Io for Abbott, and Shirley. So
I went out on Poker Face altogether.
I have no idea if she's gonna happen or not.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Like, I mean, I guess I could put in an SNL person, but I just did not.
I gotta say, this feels like a little like a category that a lot of people maybe haven't updated based on some of the odds.
Why? What's the top 6?
Top 6 are Taraji P. Henson, Quinta Brunson, Shirley MacLaine, Judith Light, Cherry Jones, and Sarah Niles. But like Iowa DeBerry, I feel like should be in the top 6, and she's like not.
I mean, her episode had already aired by the time we were able to predict
right
best. So maybe people are just, they don't care about her.
Maybe, but I mean, it feels like underestimate Abbott at your own risk, especially with the actors.
Yes. Hence, that's why I have both her and Lauren.
Yeah. Good pick.
Yeah, I don't know. Like so last year, it's hard because you can't really go off of last year since it was just hacks. And like one only murders. Oh, and Ted Lasso too, because Harry got in last year. So yeah, there's no hacks this year. So it's like, are they gonna go back to SNL or are they just over SNL? Because SNL only got 9 nominations last year.
Right.
And then there's Jane Lynch for Only Murders, but she was not in season 2 that much. So it would just be kind of a name check. I did think about Catherine Zeta-Jones when I was doing this initially. I did not do it though for Wednesday.
Yeah, no, that would be good. I thought, what about Jane Lynch for Mrs. Maisel?
It's like another one. It's like, one off. Like that just, yeah.
For guest actor, Nathan Lane winning, I have here. And then I have the Martins for SNL, Luke Kirby for Maisel, Pedro Pascal for SNL, John Bernthal, and Leslie Odom for Abbott, which is 6 of the top 7. I left off my boy Adrian Brody for Poker Face, which hurts my soul, but I got it.
I have Adrian, and I have Nathan, the Martins, Luke, Leslie, and Dave Chappelle.
I thought of Dave Chappelle, but I went Bernthal instead.
I could see them just like, this is the category I could see them actually doing SNL in. Obviously with the Martins, but also going back to Dave.
Yeah.
Like they don't care.
No.
So yeah. And yeah, I'm not sure about Adrian. But then I was like, which bear guy should I do? But then I didn't do it either yet.
I mean, I think Bernthal was would be a great nominee, and I think you can make the case for Platt too.
Yeah, the problem with like the guest categories, as we've seen, based on their nominees and winners, is like they don't care about these.
No, and I think they just pick from things they like or watch.
Yeah, so and then name checks. Yeah. Right.
So.
But I still have Nathan in first. Same. To win again. I can see the Martins winning. But I'm not going to do that yet.
It would be a great moment on TV if the show actually happens, but who knows if it will. So.
Well, it would be at the Creative Arts, so
right. Still wouldn't happen though.
It's pre-taped and then they air it on FXX. So, but like, who knows? Maybe they'll just read the winners like in a press conference. So.
And that's comedy, Joyce. We did it. But I have a couple of emails here. One about comedy.
Timely.
And actually 2 about comedy. Wow. I didn't even see the second one I could do. All right. Well, first one is from Larry Martin, who emailed us last week. He or they were a first-time emailer. It's a pseudonym Because if I remember correctly, Larry was a voting member of the striking WGA. Well, welcome back, Larry. He writes something here.
He has time to write us,
I guess. Hey, Chris and Joyce. Perhaps, this is Larry, Joyce, not me. Perhaps I'm in the minority, but I don't feel Barry is giving me the kind of fulfilling closure I was hoping for in its final season. For the past 4 years, the lead character has gone on a killing spree, justified or not, and has yet to face the consequences for his actions. Meanwhile, this season, the supporting players seem uninspired, sadly uninteresting, and I question their choices. For instance, why would Sally go off to start a life with Barry, a man who killed an innocent woman as Sally slept as a guest in her boyfriend's cabin? Face it, Barry is a sociopath. That's in all caps. I think this is what ultimately happens when the lead of a series is a likable serial killer. Remember Dexter? The writers seem to struggle to bring their anti-hero to justice in a way that feels wholly satisfying to the audience. Would love to hear your thoughts. Just want to let you take that one because I feel like you are the president of the Barry fan club.
I am. I don't necessarily agree with that.
Yeah, I would say no.
Or especially like why Sally would go away. But I think they kind of establish that in the season when she visits him in prison, in the beginning of the season, when she tells him, "You make me feel safe." Like, I think that was key. You might think that's like a throwaway line, but that's when she walks out, when he just keeps repeating it over the class. Because the premiere started with her going home, or actually the finale last season, she was going home. And she didn't get that kind of embrace from home that she was looking for. It's like she just, she killed a guy in the finale last season. And she was actually running away from Barry, and she was looking for comfort in her family. And then you see the dynamic with her mom, who just like does not give a shit. And then her dad is just kind of like he like infantilizes her a little bit. And I think you see in that episode that this is not what she came here for, and they're not giving her what she wants. So that's why she goes back to LA and she visits him in prison. And then in the fourth episode, when she tries to steal that role from Sean Hayter's Mega Girls film from her student, when her student froze and couldn't recite the monologue, and then Sally does it herself, like basically auditioning in front of Sean Hayter. And that scene is great because the blocking is like, because the actress runs off and she chases after her, and then Sean Hayter comes up, and then you just see Sally turn, and then she steps in front of the actress, and then she does the whole speech for Sean Hayter, and Sean is just like, yeah, so like do what she wants, like on screen. So it's like she just does not acknowledge Sally at all. And I think like that kind of like devastated her, and it's like she just tried to steal like this part from her student, and then it's like, what am I doing this for? Like, I'm not going to be famous, this big star that I wanted to be. And then that's the same episode when Barry escapes from prison, and then she finds out that he's escaped. And I think like she like that, and then you see her realize is like, oh, he's hiding out in our apartment, and she goes there, and then we have to time jump. So I think like she, like at that point, she's also kind of looking for that safety net, that comfort, and she has said she feels safe with him. So I think that's why she goes to him. And then we get the 8 years, but now in 8 years in the future, we see that she's unfulfilled in these past 2 episodes.
Right.
And so I don't think it's weird. I understand why it's jarring for people. So because I watch all 7 screeners like all at once, I just binged them. So I think I may have a different perspective on it because I got everything at once, whereas the viewers are getting it 1 week at a time, and I know there was when I watched when the time jump happened in the 4th episode, I was like, people are gonna be confused. They're gonna wonder if it's like a hallucination, which we were getting early in the season, or if it's real. And then the 5th episode is just most of it's just their home life in the middle of nowhere in this house. And then we get like one scene of Jean coming back to ostensibly consult on a film about him and Barry.
Yes.
And so like that, and yeah, like Fuchs and Hank aren't in that one. And I was like, this is going to be a divisive episode, and it was. So I think it's hard because there's not a lot of time to get used to this new world because the show is over in 2 episodes.
Right.
So that I get, but I don't think like if any of that is kind of like out of character. And I also think like he is punishing Barry. Like he was arrested last season. He broke out obviously this season. And I guess the thing is, because like you could have ended the show last season with him being arrested, but because there was another season, I guess it's like, how satisfying would it be to just watch him in prison for this entire time? Like something needed to happen,
Mm-hmm.
So I understand like that breakout. That breakout was hilarious with Fred Armisen. Yeah. So I don't know what was even like the question.
No, just that. I think that just talking about it, and there's not really a question. It seemed like it was just like a expressing displeasure with the final season. I will say, I think, and I'm not saying that Larry is doing this, but I do find it a lot of times. I think people who watch shows, and we saw this a little bit, I think, with Succession on this last episode too. People who are watching shows and then are rooting for people who are bad in quotes, and then feel bad that they're rooting for someone bad, then kind of like get mad when the show lets them have done that and doesn't punish the person. I think there's like a weird psychological thing that happens with the viewer. And we've seen this for a million years. Mad Men, you could go back to, people were so mad that like Don wasn't punished. Even Breaking Bad, I remember like a prominent critic was mad that it ended the way it did because Walter was not given enough of punishment, right? Like all these things you kind of, people get in their
Or they
minds,
just want them to be redeemed.
Or they want them to be redeemed. Or I think they like the punishment because they feel like they've been rooting for somebody bad, and then it makes them feel morally right to know that, well, they'll get punished. And then when you don't have the punishment happen, you're like, well, I just rooted for some real bad people, and now I feel bad, but I can't be bad. I can't be wrong because I'm me. And I am a righteous person. I'm not saying Larry's doing this, but I'm just saying, like, in general.
No, like that is it's a general vibe in the
discourse.
The discourse, the TV watching discourse. I think people do have this like moral rectitude when they're watching things. And like the Succession discourse this week was just out of control. Like truly, when people are just like, Roman is a Nazi, I'm like, where have you been? Like, they're all terrible. I'm like, they always have been terrible. And I think people can't, or like, it's weird because I feel like kids do this, or like teenagers, where they like, you see things in black and white. And I think it's hard for people to see that there is complexity in a terrible person, in a fascist, like a fascist with daddy issues. And it's like, you're not gonna, that you can still root for or empathize with this person, and see that there are these the basic human characteristics in them, but also see that they are an asshole, a fascist. Like, those are not mutually exclusive. And I think we have to get out of that binary where like someone can only be terrible and I have to hate this person. You can watch something and hate them. I do that all the time, and like I enjoy it. Like, I love watching Succession. I know they're terrible people. and like with Barry, it's like they're all bad people too, and I enjoy watching them. And like the difference between those two shows is, on Barry, they're all trying to change, but they can't get out of their own way. Whereas on Succession, Jesse has always said his ethos was, I want to do a show where people don't change.
Right.
Because like a human being, like they like to believe that they can change for the better. But we just see time and time again that like, your basic construct, like maybe you just can't change that disposition about yourself. And we see that in this episode. And
this season over and over again, we've seen that, to the point where I'm like, this is why I think it's good that it's ending, because I think it would get a little too repetitive, because it feels like we've definitely seen the proverbial football pulled away from these characters and the audience, I think, over and over again. And I think if it would have gone on a little more, it maybe would have become slightly
I think people want to see like wins for these people, or like someone actually be good enough or do something, highly acutely business minded that will make them worthy of being CEO, and they just fumble it time and time again. It's like, yeah, because they're bad. That's the whole point.
Right.
And like, but yeah, I agree. And I think the finale is going to be divisive.
For Barry or Succession or both?
For Succession. Again, I have no idea what's going to happen on Barry's finale. I won't comment until after the penultimate episode on Succession.
I don't know what's going to happen on Succession at all, honestly. So, I mean, I I don't want to go into a Succession, and I love the season. I would say personally, while there were great moments, this was my least favorite episode of the season, the last one. But I would say I think the fact that everything is happening in such a condensed timeline, to me, I think has been not the greatest narrative choice. I understand why they did it, because he wanted to have the funeral towards the end of the season, and if you kill Logan in the third episode, then you can't really just say 6 months have passed or whatever. But I kind of wish they had more space between here a little bit than what we've seen, and I think that's kind of affected a little bit of what we're seeing.
I think it's definitely affected how people, if you're not paying attention, take in certain elements, like specifically the pregnancy.
Certainly that.
Real time has just been not in real time. In the show's timeline, it's just been a week. But in real time, in our world, it's been a whole month.
Right.
So it feels like, in this episode when she tells him, my dad just died. To us, it's he died a month ago.
Right.
But to her, it was a week ago. And you understand, if you remember that, then you realize it's she's not just kind of pulling out the dead dad card to do this to him. But I do think
she kind of is.
She is, but it's also it's timely enough. It's not
right.
It was a month ago.
Right.
And Tom is also completely justified in questioning whether she was telling the truth about the pregnancy.
Yeah. And last email address, and you can email us at slugfest@goldderby.com. We got to get more emails here, folks. So I love reading them from our regulars, including David L, who's back again.
David is our number one stan.
It's David L again. Sorry if it's awkward having the same emailer every week. It's not, David. We love you. But I always love hearing your opinion on things. My questions are, does the restricted ballot limit the number of nominees that are allowed in the lead comedy categories? How is it decided if one of the lead acting categories has more than 6? Joyce, I'll let you take it.
It's so I mean, I think he's asking about the proportional rule.
Yes.
Right, not the restricted ballot.
He's saying, is it possible after a few rough COVID years, will we finally see a year again where lead comedy category can have more than 6 nominees again?
But that just depends on the submission. That's the proportional ballot rule.
That's the proportional rule.
There is, I think you need
explain this. Yeah.
More than, so the number of slots, so comedy series and drama series are fixed at 8 slots, but all the other categories, the number of slots are determined by the number of submissions. So they broke this down on their rule book. I don't even know if I can find it right now. Rule book. But basically, so I think you need more than 81 submissions in a category to have more. Okay, so here I found it. Okay, so nomination procedures. This is in the rule book that anyone can find. Just Google it. And nominations will be based on the number of submissions received in each category. So voting starts June 15th, and that's when the ballots are released. And then we can all count up how many submissions are there in each category and determine the number of slots. So 20 to 80 submissions, 5 nominations. 81 to 160 submissions, 6 nominations. 161 to 240 submissions, 7 nominations. More than 240 submissions, 8 nominations. They started this 3 years ago, this proportional rule. And yeah, so comedy series, drama series fixed at 8. And then they also try to achieve parity. So if if you have a comedy supporting actor and actress, let's say, if one qualifies for 6 and another qualifies for 7, then you go with the higher one. Right. So like, so it'll be even in that way. And yeah, that was like, do I think the restricted ballot would affect the slots?
No, I think he's asking that, and I think he's saying, will there be more than 6 then allowed for?
Well, it just depends on the submissions. So if you need more than 160 for 7 slots. It's hard for the lead categories because there's usually just 1 or 2 leads on a show.
Right.
But that's why we have like 7 and 8 in supporting, because there's a ton of supporting people.
Right.
And that's also why I think we're still going to have 5 in limited series.
Yes.
Because there's just like not a lot of limited shows. So
you can email us at slugfest@goldderby.com. Joyce, this was great. I guess we'll be back next week talking about something else. Drama, maybe, again.
Who knows?
The Succession finale. We'll see. All right.
Well, that's the lead up. So, I mean, honestly, we could just do in 2 weeks. So many things will have ended.
It's a lot of talk then. Ted Lasso ending. Everything is going to end in the next
Hazel, Barry. Oh my gosh. And then just finales in general, like Yellow Jackets.
A great time. All right, Joyce. Talk to you then. Bye.